start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York.
These vagabond shoes.
Vagabond shoes.
It's good to see you. I must go. I know I will go.
Hold him. Now you listen to me, you hillbilly punk who thinks the world's still round. I'm here to tell you it's not. It's flat!
He's an interesting guy, man, and you know, he believes it. So, Kyrie, the Earth is flat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, whatever.
That's news.
That's news. Here we go.
Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
Broadcasting straight to you from a large spaceship currently winning the war with the mainstream scientific community. Meanwhile, the peanut gallery is glued to the internet watching the new NASA Mars InSight, which has the following objective. The objectives of the mission are to map the structure and thermal state of the deep interior of Mars for the first time, to use this information to better understand the early formation processes of terrestrial planets, including the Earth. But wait, we had to travel more than 300 million miles to be able to dig 16 feet to figure out something that can be done on Earth? I declare shenanigans. Screw you guys, I'm going home. Hello everyone, and welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which propose that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide. Check it out at enclosedworld.com or just Google Flat Earth Clues. If you can't find it, then you are not very good at the internet. For those of you listening to this show on YouTube and you want to hear the show live as it happens, please go to Truth Frequency Radio for the latest schedule. Currently, this show is on Tuesday nights at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. And yes, Caroline, if it is not November 27th, 2018, you are listening to a rerun. Quote of the day from the Peanut Gallery sounds exactly like this. "You're not allowed to call them dinosaurs anymore," said Eolus. It's... I'm reading this for the first time. It's speciesist. You have to, really racist, only speciesist? Well, that's a terrible word. You have to call them pre-petroleum persons. That's from Terry Pratchett. That's really awesome. The Mark Sargent 2018 Flat Earth Challenge is in effect. This is my personal declaration of war from Flat Earth against mainstream science. I, Mark Sargent, here put forth a challenge to any university, foreign or domestic, to loan me a NASA-approved self-contained spacesuit, put me in a vacuum chamber, and pull the switch. See what happens. For more information on this, please check out the Flat Earth Clues number 13, The Lost Nail. Some quick announcements, and then what we're going to do tonight, because it is going to be a subject matter expert show this evening. But first, before we get to that, real quick, Behind the Curve film, the documentary Behind the Curve, is now in general release. You can check it out at behindthecurvefilm.com. And it is available on iTunes and Google Play and Amazon Prime. I know this because I watched it. I actually downloaded it and watched it on my machine here. And again, if you are looking for something to convert the unconverted, the unwashed heathens that are globalists, then by all means, go and find a copy of BehindTheCurveFilm.com. And by the way, if anyone knows how to get me a freaking standalone copy, I need one. I need one to put on DVDs for family members of mine that still believe in DVDs. I know everybody else is streaming, but I've still got a few family members out there, and I don't really want to go to the production company and ask for a screener copy because, I suppose I could. I wouldn't care if it was watermarks on it or not. It's the same copy they've been giving out to, you know what? I should probably mention that to people. The remaining showings, real quick, hang on, BehindTheCurveFilm.com. Sorry, the remaining showings, I'm sorry, it's on iTunes, Prime Video, and on Google Play. And the remaining screenings for the film festivals are as follows. The year's not over. It's getting there. So it's going to be in Estonia at the Tallinn Black Nights Festival. That's on the 29th. It's going to be in Moscow, Russia for the Polytech 360 Festival. That's on the 30th. On December 2nd, it's going to be in San Francisco, California for another Hole in the Head Film Festival. Back in Moscow, Russia on December 2nd, same night. December 6th, Thunder Bay Public Library in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada at the Hot Docs Showcase. And the last showing of the year so far, I don't know if we're going to get any past December 9th. It is going to be at the Guelph Film Festival. And people that in Canada just wincing every time I try to pronounce a name in Canada. Sorry, Guelph Film Festival in Guelph, Ontario, Canada. Look, it's spelled Guelph. Can't learn how to pronounce things, Canada. So there you go. All right. Phone numbers to call in, and I'm mentioning this only because we will eventually be taking calls, and that is 213-233-3998. That's 213-233-3998, or the old number, which is 720-897-6111. If you're in the UK, don't forget your country code, and then 44203-393-2871. And if you're calling just to listen, don't forget this number, which is 605-472-9131. So if you don't want me to pick you up, and I know you're going to be lazy, you're going to call the 213, and then you're going to act like a scared house cat when I pick you up. But seriously, think about this. If you're calling in and it's just you and me, have I ever yelled at a guest ever? I'm even nice to the trolls, as you will find out, because I'm going to be talking to a subject matter expert. We're going to be talking about something that some of you may find a little touchy. How much touchier that it could be than Flat Earth, I have no idea. So, with that, let's talk about our guest real quick. Our guest is Joe Taylor. Why am I bringing him on? Is it because he is the founder and curator of the Mount Blanco Fossil Museum? Possibly. Is it also because he started out his career as a professional artist? Maybe. But then he became a paleontologist for the last 40 years. And he currently lives in Crosbyton, Texas. With that, it is my pleasure and privilege to bring on a veteran science guy. This is about as big a buildup as I can give you, Joe. Joe, are you there with us?
I'm here if you can hear me.
I can hear you. That's
All
great.
right.
And so Where should we start here? I got in touch. Let me quick do another intro part. I got a hold of you because Rob Skiba, who was a friend of mine, contacted me recently. We were talking about a whole bunch of stuff, and he said, "You know, a guy who would be really interesting to talk to." Along the lines of what dinosaurs are and what they aren't, and what fossils are and what they aren't, would be Joe Taylor. And Rob and I agreed that there's been something spreading around the flat Earth community, and I'm going to put my flag in the ground right now about this, and that is there's a lot of flat earthers that don't believe in dinosaurs at all. And I get it. There's some flat earthers that don't believe Australia exists, which is interesting. But the thing about flat Earth is once you get into it, one of the side effects is extreme open-mindedness. And I could see it where people, once you start going down the road of, okay, the carbon dating system is wrong and that dinosaurs aren't what we think, then all of a sudden people will take it absolutely as far as it can go. It's like, you know what? Dinosaurs don't exist at all. It's all a fraud. And I don't believe that. I absolutely believe that dinosaurs existed, but with a caveat, and which is now where we'll segue into you, which is that I don't believe that they were from 300 million years ago or 400 million years ago or whatever period you want to choose, and you can break them down for us if you want. I believe that between civilizations, because I don't think for a second we're the first people to rent this apartment that we're in, that we're all living on. Between civilizations, there is terraforming, and there are big, massive things that happen for obvious reasons. You gotta take a rake to the sandbox from time to time, and science has put labels on things. So that's why Joe is here. Joe, being a paleontologist, you guys have to look that up. It's fine. Being a paleontologist means that you are a man who specializes in all things old and fossilized. True?
Right.
Right on.
Pale.
So let's get into your career real quick. You got into paleontology. What fascinated you about it, and then where did it take you? You've been to kind of tell us some of the digs you've been on, and I've got the list of points that you mentioned, but kind of fill us in on how you got here.
Well, I've always been a collector of old things. Anything I could find on the ground as a little child, I'd pick up. And but I became a professional artist and a musician out in California, and got kind of burned on an art deal. So I had always was interested in paleontology, and one of the reasons was paleontology had been dominated by the evolutionists, the atheists, for well over 100 years, and I didn't like that. I didn't know much about fossils. I did believe that they were real. And I also had a very firm understanding of the Holy Bible. I knew something about that, and I knew that the Earth wasn't millions of years old. And I knew there was a flood. I knew Adam was the first man, all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know how to answer evolutionists, so I became a volunteer at the La Brea Tar Pits Museum in Los Angeles, and I was working with all these paleontologists who were degreed guys. Who I don't think one of them espoused any Christianity at all. In fact, some of them were just downright antichrist, and they would tell you so. But they had a passion for fossil facts, as I did. And though they were all evolutionists, I thought, well, okay, if there's anything to this, these guys ought to know it, so I'll just listen to them. And I listened with an open mind. And before very long, they just flat out told me there's nothing to it. And the first time I heard that, I was shocked. I was literally shocked. And since then, that hasn't been the only time that's happened. More than once, they'll confide to me that there really is nothing to this millions of years evolution stuff, but they're protecting their jobs.
Wow.
And okay, well, that's exactly I had the idea that scientists were open-minded truth seekers. And I've come to realize that no, they're just men. They're just women. They're just like everybody else. They like the amenities of life. They like to be considered to be something. If you have a degree, that makes you something. If you have a professorship, that makes you something. If you can write papers, get grants. get in the news, write a book, do lectures, that means you have arrived. You're worth something. And there are a lot of scientists who have been honest enough to tell their colleagues, look, this isn't right. This stuff we're saying here isn't true. And they immediately lost their jobs or lost their tenure or were reduced to a lower echelon of work in the museums and universities. So it doesn't take very long to realize that if you don't go with the evolutionary paradigm, that you either won't get a job or won't graduate, or you won't, or you'll lose your job. And that was one of the hardest things to accept. It was almost like when I began to find out, I was in the music industry out there in Los Angeles and Hollywood for a long time. And when I began to meet people that knew Elvis and the Beatles and people like that, and I began to realize what those guys are really like, it was difficult for me to comprehend how could they be so right in their music. You know, their music was so good, in that style anyway, that how could they be such a crummy person?
Sure.
And so I think what it goes to say is we're born with the intellect we have. You can develop it. You can develop it for good or bad, for truth or lies. You can be a closed-minded, intelligent person, or a open-minded, like you say, a lot of flat earthers. I've noticed that a lot of them are open-minded. It's like, well, tell me, you know, what is it? I want to know more.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to be challenged, which I really think that's great. I mean, I think everybody, you know, you have to take firm stands on things, and other things you're not sure about, you should know when to leave the door open to continue researching.
Right.
So but I'm, you know, sad to say, many people in the world of paleontology are not open-minded. It's some of the most closed-minded people I've ever met. And the reason is because they know they have a paradigm to maintain. And to do that, they have to either not say that they think something's amiss, or they have to, if you want to appear to be open-minded, you pick a controversy like, were dinosaurs warm-blooded or cold-blooded? Well, you can just have all the arguments you want. Just don't ever argue over, did they evolve, or are they millions of years old? You don't go there.
Right.
But you can argue all day long whether or not they, you know, were warm-blooded or cold-blooded, and you'll be honored as being an open-minded truth seeker.
Right.
So,
it's the safe argument.
Yes.
You don't get yourself into trouble doing that.
That's right. It's like arguing with a football lover over the merits of some brand of footballs. You know, well, it doesn't really matter. You can have a great argument over that.
Right.
But to argue over whether there are merits of what the merits of football itself is, that's, you know, there.
Whether the game should even be played because it's potentially unsafe with those micro concussions. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to deviate a little bit there. I think I was raised by a real man, around real men. I don't consider myself very much of a man, but I know what it is. Yeah. And the whole football thing is manly.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's why girls don't compete at it. It is dangerous, and I'm not for people getting beat up, but I have to say, you know, it does maintain its original, you know, manliness. And, you know, glad of that. A lot of people aren't. I am.
Yeah, no question. So you are. So it had to have been tough for you. You know, you being what appears to be a strong Christian, getting into a field where the Bible is not really discussed much in your circles.
No, it may be cussed. It may be cussed, but it's not discussed.
I got you.
But there are people. For instance, a friend of mine named Robert Bacher, Dr. Bob Bacher, is absolutely one of the most brilliant men I've ever known, one of the most well-educated, well-read, well-rounded in his disciplines, a consummate paleontologist, geologist, hydrologist, and he also was a Pentecostal preacher for a while, he told me. Yeah. So he's really kind of been in all the waters, and he can make brilliant arguments that sound like that you, unless you really know the inner workings of things, he'll win the argument. And but he claimed to be a Christian one time. So, you know, he considers me his good primitive Baptist friend, he says.
Wow.
But, you know, I don't drink, and I've been to a lot of parties in Hollywood and places like that, and there's wine and beer and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I just, I'm really thirsty. Have you got any water? And if they bug me about it, I go, no, I don't drink. So what? It's like a lot of other things. I don't do drugs. If they start smoking pot, I leave the room. And I'm not afraid of my Christianity. If I were, that'd be terrible.
Yeah.
And whatever thing you believe in, if it contradicts the majority of the society around you, have the guts to say you believe it.
Yeah.
And, I like this. One thing I like about Rob Skiba. You mentioned Rob Skiba.
Yeah.
I consider him one of the top apologists for the flat Earth position, at least of the day.
Oh, yeah.
I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but he approaches it with a great passion.
Yes.
He's not wavering. I've got a lot of respect for that. I appreciate a good, honest communist, and I hate communism. But one who's genuinely convinced it's right, I like him better than some hypocritical churchgoer.
Sure.
Same way with paleontologists. A lot of paleontologists are not dishonest. They just don't care about the religious implications of what they're talking about.
Right.
And really, like I've said before, excuse me, I've had hundreds of discussions with other paleontologists, some agree, some not.
Mm-hmm.
We almost never discuss evolution because there's just nothing to discuss. There's nothing there. You can make up something, and act like there's. I've seen professors and academic guys going about some little thing they've come up with, and they'll talk about that. But really and truly, I honestly can't really, in my heart, believe they really believe we evolved from something. It's just to me, it's just ludicrous.
But I hear you. And so and we've got about 7 minutes to the break. And when we come back from the break, just to let everyone know, we're gonna go through some of those bullet points where you sent me the yes, dinosaurs were real and still are real. We're gonna go through some, we won't make it through all of them, but we'll go through some of those bullet points. This particular section is just setting up the framework. Did you lose friends because you were adamant in your belief?
Yes, I've lost a lot of money. I was supposed to restore this famous dinosaur, one of the only 2 or 3, and also a really large one from Argentina. And this client found out that the person that owned one of these dinosaurs was a creationist. And he said, well, I don't want anything to do with it. And he said something about the creationists, being believing in 6,000 years ago. Well, I'm a creationist. You mean you believe that the Earth's only 6,000 years old? And I said, yeah. And he said, oh, okay. Well, that makes a difference. So I went down a little bit later and I said, so now that I'm a blankety blank creationist, that my work's no good? He said, no, your work's fine. He said, but it makes a difference. So I lost a job. And that was a lot of money in that. And once you do one big job, that sets up another. And once you've got money to work with, that allows you to do things you benefit from financially. But I'm not going to take it back. I'm not going to bend around those guys because I would look like, so whatever I said about Christianity, if I could be bought off, well, then that's just the love of money. They know that's not right in their hearts. Right. So, no, I'm not going to take it back.
Good for you. The conviction means a whole lot to me in a lot of areas. Something that my father taught me a long time ago, which is, back down from nobody when it comes to your beliefs. If you're in, you're in. Don't be a hypocrite, because once you waver, you've got to live with that decision. You've got to try to sleep with that decision, and that's tough to do. If you can say something about it, you can do something about it. And always believed in that. So, congrats for you. Go ahead.
There's a famous painting of 3 young Roman teenager girls, beautiful young girls, standing in front of the a little thing there that has incense burning in it, and 2 Roman officials or so, and the statement is just a pinch. And they're telling these 3 girls, look, girls, you have to sacrifice to Baal. You got your lives ahead of you. You're a senator's daughter. You can marry anybody you want, but you have to sacrifice to Baal. We know you believe in this Christian God, but no, you have to sacrifice just a pinch. Just a pinch, girls. And they refused, and they were tortured to death. So you think about, and that was happened thousands of times. So I can only say to men, especially women of God, don't give in. Think of those little girls. They had everything to lose, and they lost everything but their souls.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. That's words to live by. With that in mind, we got about 3 minutes to the first break. The other question was, so you would say that what, 99, I don't know how many paleontologists are out there, but 99% of all paleontologists are true, pure science, no religion at all, you would say?
Some of them go to church, singing in choirs and all that, but, it doesn't, as long as it doesn't contradict evolutionism and millions of years, then they can believe anything church-wise they want, and that's fine.
So, do you think they're cherry picking in that regard? So they'll sing the choruses and read the word, but when it comes to the absolute stuff, building the world in 7 days, well, 7 of God's days, that they just kind of bypass.
Yeah, that's all. Well, I think the Hebrew says blah 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 blah, and they just fritter it away. Well, it's like Elvis. Do you think he really felt the love for some of those girls he was singing about? It's just a good, talented singer.
Yeah.
A good singer, a good actor isn't the person they portray, but they make you think they're that person. And I think a lot of scientists, they like the sociality of church. They're not the bar drinking, beer drinking, go fishing guys. They like to go to church and dress up and meet all the nice people.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, they're not going to give up their money.
No.
And their money comes from touting evolutionism.
Right. Yeah, because as everyone knows, lab geeks need Porsches too.
And they like good-looking women.
Yeah, and that is something to be said there. Even for the scientists, it's a bit hypocritical because they're...
prove that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I can prove that. And there are a lot of good-looking women that like those pinhead scientists.
Really? It's the whole the ultimate nerd that'll walk your books home from school, that type of thing?
Yeah, if they've got a PhD and they're driving a Mercedes, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that tends to count for things, doesn't it? And they probably think, well, you know what? I'm not even going to go down that. That's a whole nother topic for another time. But when it comes to, the Peanut Gallery is chiming in. The Peanut Gallery is my secret producer on the backside, the Ross and Rachel thing. Yes, Ross, whatever. So we got about 30 seconds to the break. What we're going to do, guys, is we're not going to take calls during the second section because we're going to read through some of Joe's points that he emailed to me, which I think were these the ones in direct response to Eric Dubé? That was a different thing, wasn't it? Yes.
I basically just followed his timeline there and answered each thing that I thought I could answer.
Okay, so when we come back, we're going to go over your bullet points. We'll try to keep them as brief as possible because I want to see if I can knock out, 15 of them, maybe a little more in the 20-something minutes. So we will try to take calls for Joe during the third and fourth sections. Until then, guys, stay tuned. We'll be back in 3.
Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World, part 2 of 4. It is Subject Matter Expert Night. We are here with paleontologist of 40 years and curator of the Mount Blanco Fossil Museum, Joe Taylor. Are you still with us, Joe?
I'm still here.
Cool. All right, let's get right into it. Joe believes the dinosaurs are absolutely real, and I'm there with him. But again, the caveat is that they are not as old as you think. Something I've been preaching for a while now, that the carbon dating system is an utter ball of rubbish. So let's go over your bullet points. You ready? And you can elaborate on these as we go down the list, and you'll recognize these as we move along. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. Number one, and these are your words. Sir Richard Owen did not invent dinosaurs in the 1800s. Comment.
True.
True.
The Chinese were calling dinosaurs 2,000 years ago.
Okay.
But he knew enough about bones to realize these are the bones of great lizards, giant dino lizards, like dynamite, dunamis. So it was a logical name, but they've been called that for a long time. They're just they're the dragons the Bible talks about. Some of them are behemoth, but it's not really a mystery where But he did not invent them. He came up with that name in the modern context, but the Chinese beat him to it, and they've got a lot of dinosaurs over there.
All right, perfect. Number two, Masons didn't invent dinosaurs.
No. They've been around a long time, but they didn't invent dinosaurs.
Yeah, I hear you. Number three, almost all dinosaur remains were buried in Noah's flood 4,500 years ago.
That's right. That's the timeline. If you look at the genealogy of Jesus, Joseph and Mary, all the way back to Adam, you won't get but 6,000 years, and the flood's about 4,500. And if you know anything about animal populations, about strata buildup, you can see that the Earth is not that's a reasonable timeline for the strata we see.
All right. Number four, dinosaur bones are not millions of years old. This is a falsehood told by evolutionists, gappers, and uneducated professors of Christian colleges.
Yes, I've seen it all. I've seen them all do that. I've had a lot of stuff carbon-14 dated through a friend of mine, and we've sent off dinosaur bones from here, from China, from other places, and didn't tell them what they were dating. They all came back radiocarbon dates of 34, 28, 24,000, 22,000. The problem with that is that's nothing for an evolutionist. That is bad news, especially when you know that a rhinoceros that we had from China that's supposed to be 10,000 years old, carbon dated to be 24,000 years old, and the Psittacosaur dinosaur from China that's supposed to be 80 million years old, dated to be younger than the cat at 22,000.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So no, up to a few thousand years, carbon dating has some merit. But there's a telescoping back to the flood. The flood brought up all kinds of nuclear and other chemicals when it happened, and covered the Earth in a new layer of stuff that's full of chemicals and minerals and metals. It changed everything. You can't trust any of that carbon dating, uranium dating because of the flood.
So this is why I like you already. Number five, the Romans knew that, I'm assuming you're meaning the fossils, they were buried in the flood.
I can't quote you a chapter and verse on that, but I've read where they knew that that's what they were digging. They dug a lot of stuff, and they get a trench or a foundation. Here's dinosaur bones. Yeah. They knew they were buried in Noah's flood. So they're Romans. Come on.
Right. Number six, ancient temples displayed fossil bones. Ooh.
A lot of times, these things are curious. They're like, today we see a bone. I've collected cow bones. I think they're cool. So over there, they find a really big old bone, and they take it and put it in the temple of some goddess or something. And if it's like, later on, when they didn't have those temples, they were displayed in churches, banks, city halls, some person's mansion. And, they're hard to maintain because they're pretty fragile, like low-fired clay and low-fired pottery. Right. And so, they're eventually going to get dropped and broken. The place burns down, they're raided or something. Yeah. Her mother makes them throw it out, So, but they knew about them. They displayed them as curiosities. They weren't always sure what they were, but I think they did know they were elephants because they had an elephant ivory imported over there to make Diana. The sculpture Diana was made out of a bunch of I think, African mammoth tusks. They knew about mammals. They knew about elephants.
Right.
There's a lady who wrote a book trying to say, well, all these giants they find over there in the Middle East are just mammoths. Ma'am, they knew about mammoths and elephants. So, no, they knew they're digging up elephants. No.
Okay. Number 7, the Chinese actually called them dinosaurs 2,000 years ago.
That's right. They beat us to it.
Shouldn't be a big shock. China is, their calendar is way longer than ours. On top of it, their society is. Yeah, go ahead.
They're Orientals, as is everybody. The Hebrews, the Arabs are Orientals. If they kept that Oriental mindset, they go back a long way. Their knowledge goes back to the first. Everybody knows, about the flood. All these old ancient civilizations.
Right.
Recognize the flood. Most of them Adam and Eve, and most of them Noah and his wife.
Right.
So this is no big secret. They got away from it because of paganism. Yeah. There's no secret. There's no this out of Africa. We just finally learned to say ugh, and we have a memory of dinosaurs. That's why they carve them on walls. That is so stupid.
Right. Number 8, there are untold millions of dinosaur bones in China. They ground them up for medicine. That sounds about right, because the Orientals are big on grinding up bones and other fun things for remedies.
Well, and, if you analyze some of those bones, you might find out there's really some medicine in there. Well, we take minerals, for crying out loud. People take calcium. So there may be something to that. Those are pretty smart people over there, and they had a lot of remedies that probably actually work. And but they've known about dinosaurs a long time. Again, Owen didn't invent them.
Got it. Number 9, a 20-foot-long theropod dinosaur skeleton was excavated that had been buried with a man in ancient Mexico.
A friend of mine had that information. I don't know what happened to his paper, but there was a lady who knew the man that this man dug it up, and the wife he preceded her in death, and she was telling someone, they dug up a 20-foot-long theropod dinosaur with this man they were excavating. So either this thing was a pet, or he killed him as a great hero and died doing it, or the thing killed him, so they killed it and buried him together. The Indians used to bury their chiefs with their favorite horse.
Of course.
The Chinese, the Greeks, a lot of people have done that. So it may just be something like that, but there he was. So was he millions of years old? No.
No, not a chance. Number 10, a small theropod was killed by a man with a cane in England only 100 or so years ago. Now, that one's intriguing.
Yeah, and there are other reports of things like that. But, they don't have a camera. Right. The person's maybe not well known. The thing dies. They burn it or haul it off.
Right.
And it's talked about for a while. And after a while, nobody in that village remembers much about it.
Right.
But it may have made it into a one of the local journals, like a county history, or province history. And I'm sorry, I can't tell you what to go look up for that. But
that's okay. That's all right. Again,
I feel sure it's there.
Interesting. Number 11, reptilian teeth are different from mammal teeth, and one can get a good idea of what an animal looked like from one tooth if the same or similar teeth have been found with their skulls and skeletons.
I was among those who used to say, you can't tell anything about just finding a part of a bone. Well, I was wrong. It's like, I know a lot of mechanics, and I guarantee you a good mechanic, you show him a piece of an carburetor off a Ford, a Chevy, and he'll know the difference.
Right. Good. Yeah, good point. Excellent point.
And he can recreate the entire car from it.
Right. Sure. Yeah, because all you need is one part generally, and they'll get you close anyway. I mean, because like some cars use the same engines, but if the mechanic's good enough and he has enough records, he can look up exactly what it is.
Well, some of these old guys found those teeth. They knew they're reptilian. They knew the size. They guessed at a lot of it, but they weren't all that wrong. Amazingly, and then later on they came along and when they found the real skeleton, full skeleton. Said, so it's this long, and he stood on his hind legs. So it was good guesses. There was no intent to mislead people. I don't believe, and I'm an anti-evolutionist. Right. I don't believe some of those guys were deliberately misleading anybody.
Okay. Number 12, dinosaur bones, like most fossil bones, are cracked by earth shifting and loss of strength from drying out. And it wasn't until the late 1800s that museums had suitable glues and hardeners to preserve them with. So before that, and even today, without proper materials and know-how, it is difficult to keep a bone from crumbling. Therefore, very few were displayed.
That answers the idea that, well, dinosaurs didn't exist because they weren't displayed until the 1800s. Huh. That's why, because before that, they didn't have shellacs, they didn't have varnishes like we have today anyway. Yeah. And they went to a lot of trouble to glue those things together. For instance, a 50 or 60-inch femur of a sauropod, like ones we've dug up, they break up in about 25 to 30 pieces, with about 50 pieces smaller, the size of your thumb. So it's very expensive to take them apart, clean the clay off between the cracks, harden them up, glue them back together. And even when you glue them back together, you can't just lay them on a table. They'll break after a while. So we have to build a plaster or some kind of support around them if they're not going to be displayed.
Right.
And the ones in major museums that are displayed with ironwork around them, I'm telling you, man, that's expensive, because you get that iron just a 1/16 of an inch too close, and you'll break that big old bone right in the middle. I've done it myself.
All right, then. Number 13, American Indians did find fossils. They carved on them, but most were too fragile to keep. Besides, migrating Indians didn't want to, and we're talking about Native Americans here, folks, didn't want a lot of useless weight to have to haul around.
You know, up in South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, all those states up in there, the bones are eroding out of the ground all the time. Of fossil pigs that are really, really well preserved, of dinosaurs that are not as hard, the bones aren't as petrified. So they were seeing this stuff all the time. But, you know, the North American native people didn't spend a lot of time digging stuff and making big monumental structures. There are some, but those were probably done by the giants that preceded them. So they, they pick up a tooth or something, carry it around for a while. Right. I've seen, for instance, ammonites. I've seen them carved. The base, the bottom end, the big end will be carved into what looks like a head, an eye, and a nose. And that was either a child's toy, or they just did it like we would do it. But they're on a lot of the people like here in Texas, the Comanches, the Apaches. They were on the move a lot of the year. Right. But, you don't go carrying heavy stuff. You don't carry anything you don't need.
Oh, good Lord, no. No, they were, if anything, the American Indians were known for anything else. They're known for being mobile.
Yeah, mobile and lightweight.
Yeah.
And tough.
Yeah,
tough as all get out. So, they did find them. And I don't know how many guys I know that have found arrowheads as kids. Where are they? They don't have them. Mama threw them away. Or they lost them. Or they, didn't move when they moved. There's a lot of stuff that's found that you don't end up with. Indians are no different.
Right. Number 14, ancient Mexicans made thousands of clay figurines of dinosaurs they must have seen with their own eyes. And I've seen various shows on this. Some people, I think their favorite, if I'm not mistaken, was like the Stegosaurus.
Yeah, the Stegosaur, some of the sauropods, prosauropod type, and others. I've seen a lot of the figures from Macumberum. I've only actually looked at one. They're sort of a grayish color. They're low-fired pottery, and they're quickly made. But you can tell it's just like one of my friends took a bunch of photographs of those. He said, look, we have guys illustrating these things today for major museums. They're just like the clay figurines, except there's not that much detail. How did they know that? Well, it wasn't like they had National Geographic back 100, 200, 800 years ago. They had to have seen the things. You go, well, they just saw the bones coming out of the ground. Well, I can tell you, you're almost never going to see a whole skeleton erode out of the ground. It just erodes away as it gets uncovered.
Right.
Very, very unlikely you'd ever see a dinosaur skeleton just laid out there like in Jurassic Park.
Right.
No, it don't happen.
Right.
So they had to see them. They have anatomical details on their, like fins on their backs. And no, that was all discounted as nonsense until about 15 years ago. They found a sauropod up in Colorado or somewhere. The skin impressions were there on its back. There are those fins sticking up. They were cartilaginous, and most of the time don't preserve. So how did those little Mexicans know that down there? They had to see them because there weren't no books on it.
Right. True. Number 15, using clear plastic sheets, you traced over drawings of 2 carved sauropod dinosaurs on a cliff wall in Utah, attributed to the Anasazi, and in Colorado and Arizona and other places. The ones that were on the ark had reproduced for hundreds of years and were alive after the flood for the Indians to have seen them. Interesting take. Never heard that one.
Well, out at Kachina Bridge, I think it is, Kachina Canyon. Anyway, way down about a mile down the canyon, there's this bridge there, and someone in the ancient past got up there apparently right-handed with a deer horn or something and pecked out this about 3 or 4 foot long sauropod dinosaur, long neck, long tail, fat body, short legs. And there it is. And if you look real close, there's a second one up there in front of you can't see from the ground. There's a snake symbol typical of North American Indians, of the sort of, the serpentine thing coming down, and that's their symbol of a snake. Now there's a sun. There appears to be fins or wings on the back of this sauropod. You don't know if that's an accident, someone scratched it or whatever, but there they are. And people said, "Oh, that's just a couple of clumps of something up there." Really? No, you get up there. I've been up on the thing, and it's been photographed very closely with high-grade photographs. It's all pecked. The entire body is there. The only way those guys that far back knew about that was that they had to have seen them. It's in a real remote area. And, back, dinosaur books weren't popular 50, 60 years ago, and only rich people had them. So somebody way out there in the middle of nowhere in Utah, some Indian got that and decided to climb up on there and scratch this thing in the surface? No. Right. It was done by ancient people who saw the things.
Nice.
And the one in Colorado, a policeman friend of mine was on a honeymoon with his wife, and they went down a place to look around, and they're in Colorado. Come to this big cliff wall here, and you go, there's this giant sauropod scratched in the wall. They took a photograph of it. Yeah, it's a sauropod. Supposed to be extinct for 140 million years. And had to be in Colorado and Utah. Well, after the flood, things were still fairly tropical for a long time. So dinosaurs were able to proliferate over here. And then as things have gotten drier and colder, and more extreme winters and summers, they've all moved down to the Belgian Congo and Africa.
Nice. Interesting. Number 16, Indians in Nebraska, in the Nebraska area in the 1800s, told of a black and yellow dinosaur that came and went into a cave. A large dinosaur recently walked across a plowed field in Oklahoma. You saw the plaster cast of the footprint.
Yeah, the Indians had a name for that. And I don't have it in front of me or anything, but they had a name for it. It was a black and yellow. And I think from the description, he was probably 6 feet tall, kind of like a giant a monitor lizard or something like that. Right. Not supposed to be up there. Now, if he could live in a cave where he can get water and get out of the freezing cold, because they're reptiles, they gotta stay out of the real cold.
Right.
But I saw this sauropod footprint cast. The guy, this farmer told my friend, he said, this thing just walked across the field. It was huge.
Yeah.
Big as an elephant. And he went and got some plaster and poured it in one of these tracks. I guarantee you it's a dinosaur footprint. So, this whole extinction thing, only God knows if anything's extinct.
Right.
I've heard people say, well, God wouldn't let anything go extinct. Well, you don't know that either. But we don't know
I wouldn't.
Extinct.
I wouldn't say that. As a matter of fact, some of the most famous examples, of course, are the water ones, which you probably you know as well as anyone. One was they were talking about how the coelacanth, if I'm pronouncing that one correctly, that fish, that funky looking fish that was supposedly dead for 80, 100 million years, whatever it was, and then all of a sudden somebody catches one.
Yeah, they're having it for supper.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you're looking at the picture of this thing going, okay, that wasn't that long ago. Or one of my favorites was the, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you remember this one, back in the late 1980s, that Japanese fishing trawler that supposedly landed a plesiosaur carcass out in the Pacific. And being Japanese, and they didn't know how incredibly priceless that thing was, because it was a fishing trawler and the thing was rotting. They said, we're not going to keep this in the hold. So they just took a picture of it and threw it back.
Yeah, and you can't blame them.
The what?
You can't blame them.
No, I couldn't blame them either. I mean, they didn't know. They didn't know what they had. And it would have absolutely turned the scientific world on its ear because they didn't know. And I know people are going to laugh. And I say, well, if I say that I believe there's something swimming around in Loch Ness, why is that such a stretch? If one of those things was found in the Pacific Ocean and the flood, as you know, wiped out a lot of things, but it wouldn't have had as much of an effect on certain sea creatures. So why should this surprise anyone? It's just stunning to me that people are like, no, science says they're absolutely extinct. They've all been dead for hundreds of millions of years. I go, yeah, well, you better hope one doesn't get, somebody doesn't catch a plesiosaur, because if they do, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do.
Well, it'd be awful hard to catch one, too. If you got a hold of them, they're muscular. That's what dinosaur means. In the Bible, it speaks of lizards because they're called muscular.
Right.
They're the same size as a cat. But you can't hold them if they want to get away from you.
No, they're not like whales. Whales are slow. They're just slow fish. But plesiosaur would be very, very tough.
The other thing I want to throw in here, if you're in a court of law and there are two witnesses, you go to jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is it that thousands and thousands of sightings, all very similar accounts of the plesiosaur in various places of the world,
right?
How is it those are not convincing?
Right.
It's like the Bigfoot thing, and I know we don't want to get on Bigfoot, but 30,000 people just made up a story. Ordinary people, please.
Yeah. I mean, and that I kind of attribute. You would say, well, why hasn't a hunter gotten one? It's like up until very, very recently, only in the last few years, look up something called the billy ape, which was, a 6-foot chimpanzee, which seems really, really good at avoiding people. It sees human beings and says, oh, yeah, I'm not getting anywhere close. And so they have kept out of visual range for a long, long time. And then finally we got one recently. And it's like, oh, look, a new species of chimpanzee, 6 feet tall, really tough to track down. So
I've spent thousands of hours out here in our canyons on these ranches. It was years before I saw one coyote. I've never seen a badger, but I've seen their holes all over the canyon. I've only seen one armadillo, and this is Texas, and he ran across a creek, and that's the only one I've ever seen. So maybe they don't exist.
Yeah. Well, again, we take things for granted, like a deer running across a highway. We've seen that all day long because, for whatever reason, deer have that tendency. But yeah, try to find a coyote. Try to find a wolf. There are photographers that go out there and spend a lot of time trying to, get a single shot of these things. And, some things, there was something that I remember from years ago, and we got about 2.5 minutes to the second break, just so you know. And you probably heard of this rumor or legend or whatever. I don't think it's a legend. And that was, I call it the Goliath cobra. One of those giant snakes, not the slow moving anacondas. I mean, a full size cobra that's his head is as big as a horse. Well, there's a problem there, and that is if you do stumble across one of these things, unless you're in a large group, chances are that's the last picture you're going to have taken. That's it, and you take that picture, and then that camera's dropped and it's never found again. So same thing with a lot of these species. If you're out there and you're part of a small group and you stumble across, we've seen it in the movies all the time, right? You stumble across a large thing. Well, they may not be too, they don't look at you as the same way. It's like, I'm a lot bigger than you and you're just a human being. Anacondas are known for taking out people all day long.
A lot of people have their camera phones now. But if something comes through the woods or walks across a highway, by the time you get your phone turned back on and on into the video, it's going to be gone.
Right. So,
everybody goes, well, there's no film of them. Well, there is film of them.
Right.
It's just very difficult, even in the modern world, unless you got the camera going all the time.
Right.
And, what if you're in the wrong season and it'll come out 2 months a year and you don't know what season is? You're never going to see one.
Yeah.
So
I'll take it one step further, and you probably have the same suspicion. And that is, who probably does have the footage, and that is the military, because they've got the tech to hunt down certain things if they really wanted to, and capture them maybe on a good day, and but they're not going to show anything.
They've got drone capacity and observation capacity that we don't even know anything about. So yeah, that's probably not a stretch.
No, that's what I would do if I was the military. That'd be the first thing. It's like, yeah, we got a rumor of a large snake or a large plesiosaur, whatever it is, and you've got submarines that are moving all over the place, and all they have to do is make in a call and say, oh yeah, by the way, we saw an X. Oh, real quick before we go to break, and that is the thing that no one's ever seen, but we know they're down there. We absolutely know scientifically they're down there, and that is the giant squid. We knew about the giant squids because of the garbage can lid type sucker marks they put on sperm whales when they do battle with them. And yet no one's ever caught a giant squid because they're huge. They're huge and they're lethal and they're extremely fast. They're like the perfect life form. Anyway, we're going to go to break. We're in 10 seconds. And then when we come back, we're going to take some calls, and you can talk to Joe and I, and we can talk about paleontology or whatever else you want. Back in 3.
Truth Frequency Radio is your number. This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Major Kong. Major Kong. Primary target the ICBM complex at Laputa. Switch all receiver circuits to CRM discriminators. What's cooking on the threat board? Nothing. Alright, tell you what you better do, old buddy. You better give Elmo and Charlie a flash, man. Bump everything up to condition written. Stand by the floor on your bed. Major Kong. Major Kong. Hey, what about Major Kong?
Clear and plain and coming through fine.
What about
It's great to be fine.
What about Major
What's
Kong?
happened? You see the string in my legs, Carl.
What about Major
I
Kong?
never told you.
Hey, what about Major Kong?
Welcome back to Strange World, part 3 of 4. It is Subject Matter Night, and we're talking with Joe Taylor, founder and curator of the Mount Blanco Fossil Museum and paleontologist for the last 40 years, and a strong Christian living in Crosbyton, Texas. Are you still with us, Joe?
Yes, and I'd like to just make one note. I'm not a degreed paleontologist, and I'm really actually glad because I've got to spend 10 times more time studying these things from every angle than if I'd have just got a degree.
Oh, okay.
So
cool. Awesome. Are you willing to sit with me and take a few calls?
Oh, yeah, I've got plenty of time.
Okay.
The sun goes down late here.
Got it. All right. We're just going to go down the line. Let's start with 585 area code. 585, you're on with Strange World and Joe. What is happening? Hey, 585, pick up. Oh, boy, don't make me say it. Are you on mute? Is that what's happening? You're out in Rochester, New York. Rochester, are you listening? All right, I'll put you back on hold. That's fine. Don't know what happened to him. Don't want to know. All right, let's go to It Happens. If they would have come on eventually. I was going to say rookie mistake, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I'm thinking maybe they're just calling in to listen. Let's go to, I think it's 304. 304 area code. You're on with Strange World and Joe. We're talking about anything. What are you talking about?
Hey, Joe. Mark, good to have you on the show, Joe.
Thank you.
I've seen you on Now You See TV a lot, and I love your work.
Thank you.
I got a question. We talked about the flood, and certain dinosaurs may have made it. So what do you think about the fowl that go with on all fours? You think they made it and may still be in Papua New Guinea?
Oh, the pterodactyls?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're in Papua New Guinea. Their chests glow. That's how they can see them at night. They've seen footprints and seat prints where they sit down. I've got a great interview with a fellow here in Crosbyton about 25 years ago. He was telling me that he was standing on the porch over here at his house along Farm Route 651, which is the highway that runs right through Crosbyton, south of my museum. And he was saying this big thing was flying right down over the houses and the highway. He could hear him flapping his wings, but they were really big. So he didn't flap them but a couple of times. He's kind of like a glider. Said he watched him for a quarter of a mile. And I said, well, what color was he? Well, he's kind of brown. And then he volunteered that the thing had a wedge on its tail, a diamond-shaped flap of skin. And I said, can you draw it? So he drew it. And he drew a flying pterosaur supposed to have been extinct for 65 million years. And this guy had no reason to make that up. I just interviewed him again here a few months ago, and he told the very same story. He did another drawing. Wasn't quite as good as the first one, but he had to do it on a ledge of a brick ledge. But that's right here in our hometown. And another man and his wife came in the museum one day, and I wasn't there, but my secretary was there, and she said, hey, these people said they were driving over towards Crosbyton, generally speaking, and there's this giant bird of some sort flew over them. They were in their car. And she wasn't sure if they're describing one of the giant crow-like, eagle-like birds that are as big as Cessna airplanes, or a big pterodactyl, who are almost that big, with wing spreads of each wing's about 5 or 6 feet long. Bodies are 3 feet wide if they stretch out, and that's a pretty big animal. But yeah, they were on the Ark, and like I tell most people, the sensible thing to have done on the Ark was take on weaned juveniles, ones that didn't need their mama. They're going to sleep most of the time. They're not going to fight. They're not going to mate. They're not going to eat much. They don't cause much defecation. They don't drink much water. They don't take up much space. So they get off the Ark. They got the longest life ahead of them. Those two little pterodactyls of each species flew away, found whatever was good for them to be. And within a couple of hundred years, populations build up in optimal conditions. They build up very rapidly. You can get millions of animals of some species in a few hundred years. So, yeah, I think they got off the Ark and went to where it's good. All animals know where it's good to go, and they go where it's good to go.
Cool. Anything else?
Yeah, that's all. I appreciate it, Mark and Joe.
Okay.
You bet.
Talk soon.
Okay.
Bye. All right, let's jump over to 530 area code. 530, you're on with Strange World. And Joe, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on?
It's subject matter expert night. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just, you don't know how bad I wanted to do a recording message.
Well, no, you can leave that on my cell phone if you want. That's a different number than this one.
No, I just wanted to do it so bad right now on the show, but that wouldn't be cool.
Oh, you mean like a fake voicemail?
Yeah, like a fake. I was on hold for so long, and so I give you my own message.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
So very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Joe, thank you for sharing. I didn't catch the beginning of the show, and did you guys talk about Job 40, verse 15, about the behemoth?
Just briefly. I mentioned that.
Oh, okay.
People say dinosaurs are mentioned in the Bible. Well, they are really.
Is that when you said you didn't know the chapter and verse?
No, that was of someone who had killed a small theropod dinosaur over in England. But yeah, Job 40. I have a good paleontologist friend, and he says we know this animal. He said that's Brachiosaur, and Job has described him in great detail. The Leviathan is probably something like a giant snake or a Tylosaurus, which I've been working. I've got one in my museum here. Its head's about 4 feet long, which has been bitten in two by an even larger animal. And the thing was scavenged by sharks, and then he floated at the bottom. At the beginning of the flood, before he could fall apart, was still some of the skin hanging on him. He's covered up in mud, and we found him in an erosional bank. But yeah, they're the beasts of the field. Some of those are dinosaurs, are creeping things. Some of those are dinosaurs, and the dragons. Usually, the dragons, what they're talking about is some form of dinosaur, smaller kind.
Well, I never noticed. I've read this a bit, and I know my pastor used to go over it a bit. But in 15, when it first starts talking, when God starts talking to Job about the behemoth, he says, "Behold now behemoth, which I made with thee. He eateth grass like an ox." And I never caught that, which I made with thee. In other words, supposedly Job knew, had firsthand knowledge of that, and so obviously we're not told that today. So, and I'm so shocked that they would lie about that, but I don't know. And then when I read about the Leviathan, it really looks like the dragon that we hear about in the England tales of King Arthur, because it talks about fire comes forth from his nostrils and his chest. So that was so Joe, I guess one question I have, anything sightings similar that you've ever heard of in America?
Like I say, the Indians drew them in Colorado, Utah, and up back east somewhere. There's a drawing of one. They're still seen over in the Amazon. An Amazon couple came in my museum about 15 years ago and wanted a dinosaur book to show their dad which dinosaur he'd killed, or which animal he'd killed. I didn't have one to give them, but they described he killed something like an Allosaur or a T-Rex, which was supposed to be gone, one for 140 million and the other for 65 million. But that's what he described. The thing, he was shooting a pig. As soon as the arrow hit the pig, this thing reached out and grabbed it in its mouth, and the arrow went into its ear or somewhere where it hit his spinal cord, apparently killed him. They came back 3 days later when the jungle was smelling so bad, and here's this big black dinosaur laying there with a pig in his mouth.
Well, the only why I asked that was that so far as in modern days, nothing in the North America or even in the Canada provinces like that. Nothing as far as reports or sightings or anything like that.
Unless you count the water stuff. I mean, there's been water. Yeah. There's been water dinosaurs reported in the Great Lakes. I know that.
This farmer that poured the plaster in the track of this one that walked across his field, that's the closest I can think of in a modern context of a large dinosaur type animal, four-legged, a quadruped. And the Indians' account of that yellow and black thing up in Nebraska or Kansas, where was a cave up there. Those are the most modern ones I think of. But by and large, the earth began to cool off pretty quickly, I think, and get dry. So all those lizards basically headed to ended up in the tropical belt, which that's where you find them today, in the tropics, in Belgian Congo, Africa, and a few other places. And that's just logical. That's where there's dense foliage there. Even the natives don't know what's in there, and they got plenty to eat.
Hey, hate to do this to you, but we've got a line of calls behind you. So
no worries, Mark. I appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. But you have a good rest of your evening, okay?
Hey, yeah, you have a good one, and we'll talk to you again some other time, perhaps.
Okay, talk soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Peace.
All right, let's jump over to 850 area code. 850, you're on with Strange World and Joe. What's happening?
Hi, Mark. It's Constance. How are you?
I am well, Constance. How are you?
I was missing this. Joe, thank you so much for what you shared. It's really eye-opening, and I did meet a paleontologist in Orlando area, and he had been working on the Peace River project, and he showed me all his fossils that he was allowed to keep.
Is that Gary Parker?
He presented me.
Do you remember his name?
Yes.
Gary Gary Parker?
That sounds about. Yes, Jerry Parker. I was in his home.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
I was in his home, and he presents me and my daughter with fossilized, what's the sea cow? Manatees.
Yep.
And he just blurts out, "We win," and I was like, "What do you mean?" Because I'm a I'm a young Earth believer, and I'm like, I don't know where you get that, but okay, man.
Yeah.
So, but that was my experience with his atheism.
Well, if that's Gary and Mary are both creationists. It may have been someone else. There's 2 or 3 other guys there that are really good paleontologists, and I think they're not Christians. That may have been who you talked to, but Gary and Mary,
that's probably right.
Yeah. I can't think of the guy's name. It's a Spanish name.
Yeah, I didn't know how many there were down there at all. This is the only one I met. So, he definitely was not creationist.
Okay.
And,
that's one of the others. A couple of paleontologists down there that are very well known. I can't think of the names right offhand, but they've done a lot of digging. But I don't think they're Christians at all.
No.
Interesting.
But,
anything else, Constance?
Yes, Mark. I'm proud of you. You did what you had to do. Nobody else can understand what you were looking at exactly. It's your perspective.
Well, thank you.
And I respect you utterly for that. And the fallout can be difficult. But in the end, you're going to come out shining like gold. I believe this.
I certainly hope so. And again, I didn't want to wreck the conference. All I wanted to do was make a.
I totally get that.
It was the
you weren't
least
trying to make ripples.
No, it was the least of all the moves I could have made, and I thought it was important to do because, and I'll keep this brief because it's not my show, which is that yes, all publicity is good publicity. That line is true. Well, it kind of is, but you can't. But any person, any public figure that comes with baggage, negative baggage, you don't want to get too close to. Yep. And I was not about to do it. It was there was more. And look, there's a bunch of them out there. Take your pick. Yeah. Like a perfect example. I'll end on this, which is if a producer would have come to us and said, I want to totally back a television show. And then 12 hours before, then you find out it's Harvey Weinstein. Do you still take the meeting? No, you do not. No. For obvious reasons. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, but thank you for that. Thank you. It's very much appreciated.
And so, shout outs to Mud Fossils on YouTube.
Cool.
Fascinating stuff. Goes right along with Young Earth and with a lot of things that the evidence has been covered up for far too long.
Cool.
And stuff is coming out. We're learning more. We're seeing better, and we're able to discern more about what our true history is, and what really is going on with this amazing home that we have.
Absolutely agree. Wonderful.
It's exciting.
It is. It's very exciting. I'll be a part of it. All right. Hey, you have a good rest of your evening,
I'll let you go. Thank you, hon. Love you so much. And Joe, we just really like what we're hearing. I thank God for you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. All right. Let's jump from there over to 651 area code. 651 area code. You're on with Strange World and Joe. What do you got?
Hi, you've reached Wesley Stace with PPL. I'm sorry I'm not in right now. If you'd like to leave a message, please do. If this is an emergency, please call 911. Do not call Mark Sargent. Beep.
Okay. First off, Wes, you called me. And second, the restraining order is still in effect. You are not allowed. It's not just a physical thing. It's it's that 100 yards, but you're not supposed to call me. So the fact
I actually have that one, and I actually framed it, sitting up there, looking right at it.
It is a violation of your probation, just so you know, and I'm not kidding. This time I may actually make calls. Anyway, what do you?
I dare you. You go.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
And Peanut Gallery says, if we were on a plane that was about to crash and there was just one parachute, I promise to give the best speech at your funeral.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, he was bugging me. Are you calling in? Yeah, I wanted to talk to Joe. I want to say the same thing. Thanks for being on the show. It's very riveting. I love this type of stuff. I kind of hang around with Daydreamers. I don't know if you've ever checked him out, but wanted to see what your opinions were on, do you believe that there are still dinosaurs roaming the planet? And do you believe that there were giants?
Yes, on both accounts. And I think the giants are some of them still alive today. I talk about it in my book, Giants Against Evolution. The giant animals also they're all over the earth. And like I say, they're probably in the dense jungles. There are some animals up north that a friend of mine just told me about in Canada that you just wouldn't believe, but he's talked to a lot of people, and giant snakes, giant beavers that are supposed to have been gone for 10,000 years and all that sort of thing. They're still alive. I've said many times that only God knows if anything's extinct. And just because we don't see mammoths walking down the street, we don't see chihuahuas either. That doesn't mean they don't exist.
It's very true. Yeah.
Anything else, Wes?
Yeah, I was actually commenting in the chat room and threw up if they had any questions, they could throw them up. Only one person threw something up, said giants exist. Evolution sounds like a good book.
Yeah, I mean, evolution's it's a fine story and a fine theory, but there are huge holes in it. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, it's
now, I did look up. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
People say, should we teach it as an alternative view of life? I go, no. That's like teaching that Hitler's sister was in control with him. Why? Well, because it makes a good story. Well, is it true? No. Well, why do we teach it? It's not an alternative history of Adolf Hitler. Right. So evolution is not an alternative explanation of life. It's just it's foolish and untrue. You should teach kids, here's what evolutionists believe, just like you teach them what Hitler used to believe or what the Egyptian monarchs believe. Teach them what they believe, but to teach that it's an alternative way to believe, no.
There's an old entertainment saying, which is never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
That's why they write books and call them novels.
Yeah. Anyway, Wes, I have to. I gotta let you go, Wes, because I got a pile of calls behind you.
Yeah, I know you do. Anytime I get more than 20 seconds, I feel privileged. So thank you much.
And I don't like you much as a person. Anyway, Wes, you have a good rest of your evenings. Bye. Anyway, weird. He just hung up the phone for some reason. I don't know if he was cut off or what. Let's go over let's grab one more locally. Let's grab 206 area code. 206, you're on with Strange World and Joe.
Mark, Joe. Hi, how you doing?
Hello.
Hank and Shoreline.
Hey, I know who you are. You've been writing me a lot of emails recently.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I feel bad. Some of the comments are saying, but I'm like, it's your choice. It's your choice.
It's groovy. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm just ecstatic to finally be able to call in, and it showed my number right, so now you have it.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't keep them. As soon as you hang up, that number will disappear. I mean, I suppose I could write it down or cut and paste it somewhere.
There you go. So you do have a pen next to you.
Well,
listen, I want to make myself available.
I hear you.
Available.
Okay.
You know, like a prayer warrior. You know, kind of like.
All right.
Like if you've got like a quote unquote dog pound. I know that's seriously old, dated, and
that's old school.
I'm there
right
for
there.
You, Mark.
Well, thank you. It is much appreciated, and it's great to know, and we're going to have more meetups in the Seattle area. I mean, we've had a bunch so far, not as many as like LA's had or Colorado's had, but Seattle's had a whole bunch of meetups, so we'll meet at the next one. Whatever one is done next. Hopefully, Paul on the Plane or D Marble or one of those guys will organize it, or one of the guys from Oregon. But we'll meet up soon.
Man, that's great. About the show, Joe, thank you for being on the show. It's been a delight listening.
Thank you.
About the you had like an opening quote, something about the oil being people and animals. Like, should that be looked into further? Like, and we're burning it in the cars. And that's offering up a fragrance.
Well,
probably not pleasing.
I can tell you what an old oil guy told me. I asked him one time. I said, he's an old driller. I said, so do you think that oil is made out of dead dinosaurs or just a product of the earth? He goes, well, you know what I think? I said, yeah. He said, it's just a product of the earth. So we can pump them wet wells out and come back in 10 years and they're full again. There are oceans of oil beneath the surface of the earth. Oceans. And up above in the strata, there are 200 feet, some places 2 miles of fossil strata. And in there are millions and millions and billions of dead dinosaurs and every other thing you can think of. And in coal mines. Coal mines are full of dinosaurs and the trees that they're eating. So there's so many dead dinosaurs up in the dirt and in the coal that you'd have to have the earth that it'd be stacked on top of each other to make oil too. I don't think oil is a product of dinosaurs. It's just a product of the earth, like salt and clay.
So the people fraction has diminished greatly.
Well, I don't think
the people before the flood.
Yeah, you mean in size?
Are we talking about people as oil? Is that what you're talking about before the flood?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
No. What he's saying is that people would have no part of the oil equation either. They're just.
Oh, okay.
No,
I appreciate the clarification.
There's one person for probably every several million dinosaurs, and there were billions of them. There's probably a couple million people on the earth. A lot of those were giants, and some of their bones have been found. But people being smaller, more fragile, don't preserve as well in turbulent waters and all that, even though in some places mosquitoes and little birds are preserved. But that's out in the ocean. Most of the men were on the land, and the land was just overwhelmed by massive flowing of mud, volcanic debris falling out of the air, and you're just not going to find very many people compared to the amount of animals you'll find. But they're there.
What about your opinion on the fragrance of burning oil? You think that's frowned upon?
No.
But I
they were using.
Hate to table this, Joe, but unfortunately we are going to our final break, so that question will have to be answered another time. Thank you very much, Hank, for calling in. And when we come back from the break, we'll talk to a few more people and wrap it up. Okay?
All right.
Have a wonderful evening.
All right. You too, man. Thanks for calling finally.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
Welcome back to Strange World, part 4 of 4. And yes, that was Joe Jackson stepping out from his album Night and Day. Tonight is Subject Matter Expert Night with Joe, paleontologist, curator, Just overall great guy. And we're taking calls, so let's get right to it. Let's jump over to, I think this is 845 area code. And yeah, I got to do it because it's 845. Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it.
New York, New York.
There you go.
With my vagabond shoes. What's up, Mark?
Hey, man.
You guys are killing it tonight.
What is happening in New York? What are you doing? What do you want to do? What do you want to talk about?
Cold, windy, crappy, overcast.
Yeah.
I'm on the front porch. Just wanted to call you. You guys are, like I said, killing it tonight. Cool. I was wondering if Joe could maybe talk a little more of the story of the dinosaur running across the field and the gentleman taking prints.
Oh, the Oklahoma.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was in Oklahoma. I'm not sure where. This guy that told me that is an adventurer. He's a Bigfoot hunter, and just so it's hard to know where he is. I did see the cast though, and was coaching him the other day on how to seal it. So I know he still got it. I'd like to get a chance to make a mold of it and then cast it so we could have one here in the museum and study it in different kind of lighting. But I have no explanation what that big thing's doing up there. I do know there are caves in Oklahoma. In fact, some guys were finding cave bear or short face bear skulls and bones down in a cave. So I, being the nut that I am, I went up there with them, crawled down in this thing about 7 feet down. It's just a hole that opened up in the strata, and crawled through layers of sandstone to this pile that had these bones in it. And so that cave was pretty extensive. And as to tell them where it went, it's quite possible that animal just lives in one of those caves up there. And it's out in the middle of nowhere. It may be covered in brush, and you can go in there, and it just, the trees and brush just closes up on it when you go through it. Could be something like that. I can't imagine how a big lizard could live up there, though. It's too cold, at least in the winter.
Crazy. Well, maybe if they go deep in the ground, I don't know.
Something
crazy.
Yeah, they may dig holes.
Oh yeah, right. They dig. Hey, I have a quote for you, Joe.
What's
no, I don't think my generation got into this dinosaur thing. That was Walter Cronkite.
Oh, well,
actually, that was humorous one.
Cronkite graduated, I think, in the 30s or 40s, and he would have got a pretty good dose of evolutionism told with great authority, like they talked about Freudian psychology and existentialism and all that sort of stuff. Well, it came to a head in the 50s and 60s and sprouted hippies.
Interesting.
Interesting stuff. Anything else, man?
In my opinion.
Yeah. Real quick, hey, I watched First Man. Actually, I didn't watch First Man. I turned it on and I fast forward to the last
to the
20
moon
minutes
set.
of the movie.
And what'd you think?
Yeah. And they screwed up just like they originally did.
Yeah.
They didn't show any blast, no dust. The Earth was too small, too low on the horizon.
Yep.
It was terrible. And they did show the flag, but it was a far off shot when he's looking and the flag is in the shadow, but the American flag is in the scene.
I wonder if they put that in later.
Yeah, added it. Right, because everybody bitched. Too crazy. Yeah, horrible. They did the same exact crap.
By the way, Peanut Gallery says you should make sure that Mark plugs his own show.
Yeah, yes, Night School, Thursday nights. Please join me, Shauna, and the other guy, Brian.
Nice. Okay.
It's a fun show. Brian keeps us honest. Shauna is very existential and knows so much. And I think I'm just a plucky comic relief.
Oh, I think you're a little more than that, man. Cool. Well, awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Joe. Good, great talk, man. I could listen to you for hours. That was awesome.
All right, man.
Keep it up, Mark.
Okay.
And it's weird. I'm getting. Oh yeah, let me go. Bye.
No. You can say whatever it is. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's weird because somebody, I forgot who just called and mentioned the Constance, the conference stuff. And
Right.
it's like, I'm getting crap for it. And I'm like, screw you, because he's my friend, and I back him.
Yeah.
People are just stupid.
No,
Just
heck,
stupid.
I got some. Hell, I'll throw one more in for you. Just a little side note. And I was getting grief because I told D Marble in his comment section that that I would back him, because he was catching some racism at the conference, and some white supremacist guy mentioned me in the back part of his video. Like, whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, it happens.
So stupid.
2018, offend everyone. #. Okay. Anyway, we'll talk soon. Okay, man. Okay.
Peace out. Love you guys. Awesome.
All right.
Keep it up.
All right, let's jump. Okay, we're going to pick, we had 20 minutes left, so I'm going to pick up 214, then I'm going to pick up 905, I believe that's in Canada, and I'm going to pick up 510, and then we'll see where we go after this. I'm curious about the 214, because it's coming in as private, and the agency is not getting a good trace on this one. So I don't know who this is. 214, you're on with Strange World and Joe. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Jan. I forgot to unblock me.
Oh, it's Jan from
hi.
Dallas.
I'm
What's up,
talking
Jan?
to two masculine. Huh? I'm
What's
talking to two masculine men at the same time. It's terrific. Joe, I had a question. I'd heard about a museum here in Texas where there's a man, creation museum. There's a man's footprint walking next to a dinosaur footprint. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I'm old at that. That's Carl Baugh's museum and the Paluxy River at Glen Rose, Texas. Carl's been the guy doing that for a long time, and I've molded a lot of those tracks. And the one if that's the same one you're talking about, it's called the Japanese track because there was a Japanese film crew and a couple of Japanese scientists there. They wanted to see a dinosaur footprint. We're just uncovering dinosaur footprints. So Carl's guys took off a slab of limestone about 5 inches thick, that as big as a tabletop, and under that was a layer of clay about 3 or 4 inches thick. So Carl and I started digging out the clay to get down to just show them a dinosaur footprint. Well, Carl's digging along and hits this impression that's kind of the size of a loaf of, or looks like a loaf of bread. So he has me take over and start digging on it with I think I was using a wooden tool. Well, pretty quick, Dr. Fukuda, the Japanese scientist, looks at that, and I said, "You want to help?" And the interpreter said in Japanese, so yeah, he gets down there on his knees, and with a Windex and water and a couple of brushes, we excavated what could only be a human track. It had a big crack across the back of it because the limestone cracked, but there were 5 toes on it, and there had been another track there excavated by Hugh Miller and some others that they call the Sir George print, and it's almost identical. It's so there's a left, right, but we only got the right, I think. But it was only 6 inches away, 3 or 4 inches, I think, from a 3-toed dinosaur track, an Acrocanthosaurus track, a medium-sized high-spine lizard dinosaur. And the Japanese and Chinese don't, at least academically, don't have a problem with man and dinosaurs and all this stuff. It's the American evolutionists that is so backward in their ideas. They just hang on to Darwinism and the millions of years of evolution stuff. And the others, some of those Oriental countries, they're not so hung up on it. So yeah, if that's the track you're talking about, I know that track well. In fact, I offer a cast of it if anybody wants one.
All right. And
Japanese track.
Anything else, Jen?
That's fascinating. And real quickly, with your music background, you sound like you may have been old enough to see the 50s black and white Godzilla movie. Did it scare you?
Yeah.
Did you have any idea you'd be doing it today?
I saw some of those as a kid, yeah. And I saw the attack of the giant shrews and had nightmares for a long time. But those things are, it's, a lot of the stuff, it's just King Kong gets loose and terrorizes the natives. They turned it into Jurassic Park.
Right.
Oh, well, thank you, Joe, very much, and thank you, Mark.
Oh, very welcome. Thank you for calling in. And had I known it was you, had you unblocked yourself, I would have probably picked you up sooner.
Okay, have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye, Jan.
Hey, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
I just want to throw out one little thing there. A lot of people have said there's no whole dinosaurs found. And yeah, a lot of dinosaurs are missing parts of their bodies because they come out of cliffs. And, for 50 years, half the dinosaurs eroded away into crumbles. So we find them, they're partial. But there are a lot of complete old dinosaurs found, and lots of them.
Cool. All right. I'm going to take your word for it. You are the subject matter expert after all. Let's grab 905 area code. 905, way up there in Canada, eh? What's happening?
Oh, not much, eh? Hey, Mark. Hey, Joe. How are you?
Hey. All right. Hey.
Good.
So I think Wes might have screwed the pooch on me here.
Because he asked you
you mentioned... well, I was just wondering the thoughts on the old Sasquatch. But if giants are still living and giant beavers are in Canada, and there's things that most people just don't see because it's the wilderness.
Right.
What's the thoughts on the Squatch and the Squatch and the Nephilim? And there's so many questions.
Let's just limit it to Squatch and Nephilim for now, because unfortunately we're running out of time. So, Joe, what do you got?
I know, Mark.
That's
right.
I cover that in my book, Giants Against Evolution. I mentioned Sasquatch as possibly being Gigantopithecus, the giant ape that didn't go extinct. Now, he does have a lot of human-like characteristics, but we don't know what Gigantopithecus had. We don't know if it's the same or different. But, yeah, they're... I just did a conference on Bigfoot. They're definitely out there. I'm not certain what they are. More information is coming in all the time. There are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of giant skeletons been dug up all over the earth, and I showed that in my book that they're everywhere. I think they're still around today.
Totally covering it up.
Do what?
Say it again.
The Smithsonian Museum.
Smithsonian.
Oh yeah, are you saying is the Smithsonian being honest with people? That's probably the question here.
Well, no, they're not. They're definitely
I know. I
not.
want Joe to chime in though.
No, compared to their original papers on their field work, they're not telling the truth because they said they dug up lots of giants, but it gives too much credence to the Bible, and that's what they're fighting against. They're not fighting it's not creationist versus science. It's evolutionist versus science.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I'll talk to you guys later with my other stuff I got to talk about. But
okay, and I'll give out if Joe wants. By the way, if anyone wants to email Joe directly, I'll give ways to for people to contact him toward with a few minutes left at the show, if that's okay with Joe.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah,
because I'm sure you will get the crowd that I hang out with. They're a very inquisitive bunch, so there will be lots of questions. Yeah, they are. Okay. Anyway, man. Hey, have fun up there in Canada. Try to stay warm. Okay.
I will try. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Okay. See you soon.
Okay.
All right. Let's jump over to 510 area code. 510. You're on with Strange World. Sorry you were on hold for so long.
Oh, man. It couldn't have worked out any better than it did. Pittsburgh, California. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, the Impossible City. What's going on out there, Nathaniel?
Oh,
hey,
man.
Nathaniel.
He already know who it is. I was just talking to my friend, man.
I remember your story.
How you do, my friend? Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Just wanted to call and hear your voice, man. Just wanted to say hello. Glad that it was a pleasant surprise to hear that you was going to be on the show. And you talking about things coming together. I literally called about maybe I want to say about 15, 20 minutes because as you know, Mark, I'm in transition from my route, and I just dropped off my last people, and you just unmuted me. So hey,
Nice.
I'm good to go.
Perfect. Awesome.
Absolutely. So yes, I want to hold up any other time, Joe. I just wanted to tell you, it's good hearing from you, my friend, and I look forward to talking to you real soon.
Same to you, Nathaniel. Take care of your family.
All right, will do. All right, then, Mark. You already know, man. I'll be talking to you real soon as well. Bye bye.
Okay, see you then. That was Nathaniel, you guys.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he is a cool guy. I had a chance to spend a little time with him out in Denver, Colorado. All right, let's jump over to, let's go up a ways to, I got to call out the city on this one because this is North Dakota, 701 area code. What's happening?
Hey, Mark. Hi.
Hi.
I haven't talked to you in a while.
It's true. Are you on the road right now?
Yes, always.
Where are you as we speak?
I just crossed into Virginia on I-81 going southbound, and I'm on my way to Georgia.
Right on.
So.
The trucking life.
Yeah.
Right on.
I know.
What's on your mind?
Well, first, I just want to give you kudos for how you handled the little snafu with the VIP guy in Denver there.
Thank you.
So I think that what you did was awesome and it rocked. So that's what I have to say about
am a man of conviction and passion, and I do not hide it. So,
very admirable.
Thank you. And buyer beware, anyone that ever wants to date me, because I am currently single.
Okay. And also, I just want to say hello, Joe. It's when you said that you were in the La Brea tar pits, and did you have any affiliation with the Natural Museum of Science down there?
Well, that was one of the first places I took some of my bones that I found to the Natural History Museum there in Los Angeles, and of course to the La Brea tar pit guys.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's been a while.
What years were those?
1980 in there, and then I've kept up with them over the years. There's a fellow working there right now that corresponds with me frequently. He's one of the staff, and I hear from him some of their goings-on, some of their speakers, and things they're doing.
Oh, okay, 1980s. All right, I was going to say, when I was about 7 and 8, 9 years old, I was a paleontology freak.
Sure.
And yeah, I loved it. I wanted to be a paleontologist so badly, and I actually wrote to the head of the Department of Paleontology there at the museum, and he invited me and my family to go on a dig up in Montana that summer, and I think it was in 1968.
Is that George Jefferson? George Jefferson?
I'm not sure. The name I've been racking my brain since listening to the show here, but I can't remember the man's name. But he was the head, and it was by his permission that we were able to go up there and get involved in the dig. So that was really an amazing experience, and yeah.
And where was it you dug?
That's another. It was Montana. Okay.
Lots of bones there.
Yeah, there were. In fact, I came back with what they called was the tip of a tail of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I was kind of questioning whether they were humoring me but I still have the vertebrae, and so I got my picture taken in the local newspaper in Camarillo, California, thanks to my mother, who was so proud of me, and I was so embarrassed. But no, I am so thankful to hear that there is a Christian man who is in the field, and it's been a journey for me. I'm a Christian also, and I had to kind of, weigh out these things when I did become a Christian. It's like, okay, so I was a real science buff and in NASA and everything else, and now here I am, a flat earther, but I do believe in the young Earth, and that man was around when dinosaurs were around. So and science is starting to prove that now especially with people like you.
Yeah. Well, it's come into its own, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's wonderful to see because all these things are going to be revealed in the end. So, yeah.
Cool.
All right,
Anything
that's
else?
about all I needed to say. No, thank you. Yeah.
All right.
So, till next time, I have another question for you, but probably next week.
Okay. Okay. I
I
should be here next week. I don't think I have anything scheduled. I will be back next week, so I'll be here. But thank you. And we'll talk again soon, okay?
Okay, thank you, Mark.
All right.
All right, good night to both of you.
Good night.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Okay, and on that, normally I would take, and I'm sorry for the other people that are still on hold right now, but I wanted to talk to Joe a little bit, just him and me, before we wrap this up, because I don't think I've done you justice in terms of the work, because I forgot to even ask you if you had a book. So do you mind plugging your book and how people can reach you if they have questions?
Yeah, you can go to www.mtblanco.com. We call it Mount Blanco. You say Mount Blanco, we say Mount Blanco. Mm-hmm. And on there is my book, Fossil Facts and Fantasies, which covers a lot of stuff in my museum. Shows that in most so-called fossil periods, they show evidence of rapid burial, complexity, and so forth. Also, my book, Giants Against Evolution, covers all the giants around the world, deals with the transhumanism, the Nephilim thing, Bigfoot, the fallen angels, and etc., all that ancient stuff, as well as about half the book is on giant animals. The idea that evolutionists have promoted that things started off simple, became complex, and bigger and better is just totally false. And that's the point of my book, is not only are giants around, but here's the explanation. They're biblical explanation, which that's why they avoid them so much. But it's a good book, and it's our most popular thing, Giants Against Evolution. So www.mountblanco.com will get you to us, and we take care of you from there.
Awesome.
Also, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead. You got 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
I had to close the museum October 5th because we suffered two of the two worst hailstorms in June we've ever had, knocked holes in the roof. So we had to shut the museum because of all the rain coming in. So we're desperately trying to do whatever we can to raise money to fix that roof. We've got to fix the roof, and it's $25,000 just to fix it.
Oh, wow.
So if anybody's interested, I've got a Facebook GoFundMe thing somebody started, and or contact the museum. We can direct you if anyone is interested. But we are in a desperate situation at this point.
Oof. All right. So and I'm sorry. You can. Is it easier to go to the website to mountblanco.com? Is that on there as well?
The GoFundMe, I don't know that's on there, but we can answer inquiries.
Okay.
And Mount Blanco 1 with the number 1 at AOL.com is a museum email address, so anyone that has questions can call that.
Cool.
Email that.
All right. Any other closing statements on your side? You got about 90 seconds.
Dinosaurs are not rare. They're just hard to get out of the ground. There are more dead dinosaurs than there are living cattle. And there are a lot of people working on these things, a lot of independents. Mm-hmm. Some of them are evolutionists, but they don't mind telling the truth. And I know a lot of those guys. They're finding amazing things out there, and it does not help evolutionism. And I call it an ism because it's a belief system that I don't think is backed up by facts. And I know that's got some people pulling their hair out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've been in this now 40 years, right in the inner sanctum of the whole thing. And I don't believe there's any evidence of evolution or millions of years, and everything against it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're not going to be ruffling any feathers with my crowd because at least half of the Flat Earth membership are hardcore Christians. And it's been pretty consistent all the way across the board, at least in the United States and Canada and UK and places like that, and Europe, other countries I can't really speak for, but no, and I know I didn't even ask the entire show. I got 20 seconds. I didn't even bring up the whole flat Earth thing because you're more. I respect your whole side of things, and where we are. So if you look into it, great. If not, no big deal either.
I'll tell people, keep an open mind.
Yeah.
I started listening to Rob Skeever, those guys, a couple of years ago because they were trying to answer some questions I had. Right. So until I can answer that, I'm going to keep looking.
Cool. And with that, the music is playing, so it's time to go. But thank you, Joe, and stay on with me just for a minute. But we're going to music, okay?
All right.
Same flat time, same flat channel next week, guys.